It all kicks off in Cairo, Egypt 5 years ago inside the extravagant mansion of a billionaire named Sullivan. That morning, he was just waking up, and after being served a breakfast he couldn't stand, he treated his butler like dirt. From the outside, the mansion was locked down tighter than Fort Knox, but the security cameras, they started going dark. Ms. Tarantula had already hacked into the whole system. Now it was Shark's turn. Over the comms, he let the crew know that Wolf was just about to get inside the mansion. At that moment, he was disguised as one of the guards and managed to fool another officer, while Piranha was hiding inside a fish tank, stirring up a mini whirlpool in the water. When it came time for Snake to move, he showed a little doubt about Miss Tarantula. She was the newest member of the crew, and he was nervous she might screw something up, but Wolf told him to ease up and cut her some slack, reminded him it was her first heist after all. Snake reluctantly welcomed her to the team, and within 5 seconds flat, they were putting the whole plan into action. Miss Tarantula shut down the security system once again, and once the whole crew was back together, they stormed in and confronted Sullivan. She asked why they hadn't just walked in through the front door instead of making such a crazy scene. To which the others replied that doing it this way gave their heist a whole lot more drama. Sullivan called them monsters, which got Wolf real heated. He showed his claws, and just when it looked like he was about to attack, he froze. His eyes locked on Sullivan's car. He said that ride was one of a kind, and he'd give up just about anything so long as they didn't lay a finger on his beloved vehicle. Ms. Tarantula didn't get why they went through all that trouble just for a car, but Wolf explained that when it comes to a heist, it ain't about the loot, it's about showing the world how incredible they were as a team. Sullivan added that the car had never even been driven and asked him to be a little more careful with it. Right then, Snake coughed up a bomb, and when the timer hit 0, it didn't explode. Instead, it set off a blast of colorful confetti. The crew made their getaway through the window, breaking their fall with a giant balloon shaped like Sullivan's head. That's when the Egyptian police started tailing them. To keep civilians out of harm's way, Wolf pulled off a wild maneuver behind the wheel. Ms. Tarantula, annoyed, complained about how dramatic his driving always was. He told her he only drove like that when the moment truly called for it, and today, no question, it definitely did. Their only way out now was the bridge. They used the traffic jam to push forward, knocking over a couple of the cops' motorbikes along the way. In the end, all the bikes got bunched up, and when they tried to cross, they realized the cops had him surrounded. Ms. Tarantula suggested he was an ex-con. Just then, Diane's assistant reminded her she had an appointment at the children's hospital and needed to get ready for the event. Before she left, Diane asked if they'd see each other the following week. Wolf said yeah, his schedule was wide open. She told him that no matter what happens, he shouldn't lose hope. He had to give real creative. Shark pretends to be a florist, while Shadow sneaks in disguised as a waitress. Kitty mentions Moon wears these special glasses that tell him who's worth talking to. Anyone flagged gets a 30-second convo with the guy. The plan kicks off. First, Piranha handles the security while Snake works on a real tricky lock. He says picking locks is like romance. Starts off easy till all the defenses melt away. After killing the power, Pigtail poses as a techie, and Ms. Tarantula jumps in to hack the system. Finally, Wolf shows up at the party playing the role of a tycoon named Billy Lobato. Ms. Tarantula messes with Moon's glasses, and they manage to get FaceTime. Once everyone wraps their part, they all wait for Wolf to make the move. But then Snake and Shadow start flirting, and she ends up dropping her gun right onto the bride's head, knocking her out cold. Meanwhile, Wolf convinces Moon they should team up. They shake hands, but that's when Sullivan, the rich guy from the start, shows up. Wolf tries to stay low-key so he don't get spotted, but Moon's gotta bounce. Kitty, pissed, confronts Wolf and demands to know if he's sabotaging the whole op. But that ain't all. Shark walks in with the bride and turns out she's totally sedated. Then the priest steps in and Shark knocks him out, blowing the whole plan to pieces. Kitty, pissed off, threatens Wolf, who swears he'll do whatever it takes to get the watch back. The bride finally shows up to the wedding, while Ms. Tarantula cheers with excitement. Wolf dresses up as the bride, and Moon, not suspecting a thing, tells her she looks beautiful that day. But wait, there's more. Sullivan figures out who Wolf really is. Right in the middle of the ceremony, Shark shows up pretending to be the priest, so Sullivan cuts the whole thing off and tells Moon the truth. But when he pulls the veil off, he realizes Moon had already switched places with Wolf. In the end, Moon gets kicked out of the wedding while the crew takes off with the loot. Kitty, real curious, asks Wolf how he pulled it off, and he starts breaking it all down. The heist had 3 steps. First, set the bait, then flip the script, and finally score the prize. So first they got Sullivan to believe who Wolf really was. Then they made him think the bride was the fake. And last, they tricked him all the way through. That's how they managed to get away with it. Meanwhile, over in prison, Marmalade's still messing around with Diane, who's already looking bored out of her mind. Marmalade goes on about how the game's all about brains, strategy, and more than anything, knowing how to outsmart your enemy. And hey, it ain't every day the governor comes by to chat about magnetic terraforming. He tells her that MacGuffinite is like the opposite of gold, and when you hit it with extreme voltage, it turns into a giant gold magnet. Why bother robbing a bank, he says with a smirk, when the gold could just come to you. Diane thanks him for the chat, but right before she leaves, Marmalade tells her she wasn't the only one who came to see him. Turns out someone else was there a few days back. Curious, Diane checks the older recordings and finds out where Kitty's been hiding, her secret lair. Pigtail, on the other hand, feels down because she knows that after this last job, chances are they won't see each other again. Meanwhile, Shadow asks Snake not to hold a grudge over the whole fake relationship. Even though they both deny catching feelings, they end up admitting they actually like each other. Elsewhere, Wolf's talking with Kitty. She explains the only way to get him back in the game was by framing him. That way she could force him out of retirement. Now that she's got what she wanted, she's ready to hand him the USB. But first, she tells him about her very first heist. How the first thing she ever stole was a lollipop. Back in school, the teacher only gave lollipops to the good kids, and she was always the one left out. One day, when she noticed no one was watching, she stole all the lollipops. Since then, if anyone wanted one, they had to come to her. That was the first time she felt powerful. The more heists she pulled off, the more respect she earned. She asks him why he'd want to leave a life like that. She thinks his new mindset is naive. People don't forget, no matter how much you try to change and prove you can do good. She tells him to give up hope and just enjoy the lollipop. Those words made him think, but still, Wolf walks away. When they all meet up, Wolf asks if they managed to record Kitty's confession. Once they have it, the next step is to visit Gruñas and hand over the tape. But his friends notice Wolf is distracted and ask what's wrong. He wonders aloud, what if they picked the wrong path? But his friends reassure him, saying that now they'll all be seen as heroes and get a better life. When they start the car, movie wraps up.